Welcome back to week number 2 of the Second Coming. We are excited to have you all join us here. I'm Jason Keaton, the host of our show today, and here with Brother T, who is going to enlighten us on our path and have a great discussion. And today is a discussion that's near and dear to my heart because it's a big transformation when you can go from how you think and perceive your life and how you feel things are happening to you. And I'm talking about victim consciousness. Are you somebody that sits there and is like, this person did this, if this didn't do this, if this wouldn't have happened to me, I wouldn't be in this situation? Or are you somebody that can look at something, whatever the event is, and decide how you're going to change that? And this is actually one of my very favorite topics. And Brother T is one of the best speakers on this topic. I've attended some of his seminars where he's brought in pie charts of consciousness and deep dived into some really great information. So rather than me give you previews of this, I just want to be quiet a little bit and really give the mic over to Brother T here and let him talk, because this is one of my favorite topics that you talk about, Brother T. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Jason, and thanks for being here. I want to say hello to everybody that's out there, and I really appreciate you, Jason, so for being the anchor here of the Second Coming podcast. Is very, very exciting. It's something we've been wanting to do for a long time, and so we're really glad to have finally gotten it off the ground. Just as a side note, we hope it gets better every week, and if you have suggestions or comments, feel free. If you're a paid subscriber to our Substack page, you can find us at truemind.space, and if you register there, then you'll get an email. And all you have to supply is your email. But if you supply your email, you'll get emails. And we send out emails almost every day. It's pretty rare that I'm missing a day at this point, Jason. But the other thing you can do is be a paid subscriber. And if you're a paid subscriber, you can add comments on any of the work that we're doing, whether it's emails or the podcast or whatever. And there's some other special benefits for paid subscribers. So I'm just kind of putting that out there for you. If you feel like you'd like to know what's going on behind the curtain, it's pretty easy to get back there, and we're going to continue to have some deeper discussions, stuff that we can't really cover everything here on our podcast, obviously in the few short minutes that we're here on Sundays, but and whenever we're doing podcasts, but we'll do our best. So today, Jason, you're thinking victim. Well, let me say this.
I mean,
go ahead. What were you going to say?
Go ahead, Brother T. No, I was just going to reiterate that I love this topic, because when someone wraps their mind around it and changes this view they have of their view of the world, it changes their life. And I don't mean that in a small way. I mean, it changes your life in a big way, where you become unlimited, abundant in all areas of your life. You love finance, everything. And it's not like you're going to not have little dips here and there, but you recover from those dips so much faster, and you live life more present and more full, and things don't happen to you anymore. You're the observer and you're part of it. And I've learned this from your seminars and the Way of Mastery, and I really, really love this subject, and it's changed my life in incredible ways that I would have never imagined before. So I'm excited to listen to you here, Brother T. Excited, very excited.
Well, thank you, Jay. And I love the way you're phrasing this and kind of setting the a foundation for the conversation. Thank you for doing that. So. Lots of things came to mind, really, as you were speaking. Yeah. So I just want to kind of go back to the beginning, if I can. The root problem, because usually we're only dealing and reacting to effects, what we think is happening to us. And as you said, if we can get our mind around truth, and we understand why things are happening the way they're happening. And sorry about that ding there. Let me silence this. If we can begin to understand, why things are happening, in other words, what's the cause, and we can really begin to see what we're doing to be a part of those events that are happening, then that changes, that really does, it changes everything. So I want to start out with a couple of true thoughts. Number one, cause and effect are actually reversed. In the world, through the egoic construct, through the mind of fear, it looks like things are happening to us. And so for the first 40 plus years of my life, Jason, I was literally trying to navigate through, okay, what's coming today? And I had no idea what's coming tomorrow, so I'm trying to navigate through what's coming at me. And that's how I literally operated, dodging bullets, jumping over boulders, trees, whatever I got, just to get through and try to navigate through life of what's coming at me. And I had no concept that I was the one who was setting it up. And I mean that literally. I just didn't know I was setting it up. So that's, number one, that's a huge thing. In other words, if we can stop dealing with the effect of things and go back to the cause of things, what we believe is happening, then everything begins to be seen in a new way. So, number one, we are not bodies. That's a true thought. What does that mean? I am a body. I'm sitting here yes, I'm the body as a communication device. And as far as spirit's concerned, and your egoic mind is concerned, it's a communication device, and it's also a receiver. It's a transmitter and a receiver, but it also is a communication device. So if the truth is I am as God created me to be, I'm not a body. God didn't create me as a body. That's a construct that I was able to take advantage of once it was available. We're going to talk some more about that. We won't get into that today, obviously, but there's a reason why we're here and there's a reason why we're informed. And we'll get into some of those conversations. But let's go back to the main point today, which was victim. And so a victim can only be a victim if there's a victor or a perpetrator. There's something or someone that is a cause, and then we are responding or reacting, I should say, is what we typically do, is react to an event. So here's a true thought. Number one is, to help us kind of put things in the right perspective, in the right frame, is that all events are neutral. Now, these are principles that were taught to us, and I had never heard these things before 1970s. This was when the Course in Miracles became published in mid-1970s. And I didn't find it until much later. But the point is, I'd never heard that before. But Jesus is the master teacher. So Jesus is trying to help us to understand these simple principles, these cornerstones of philosophy that help us to begin to see the world in a new way. So number one, all events are neutral. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means that we are giving everything all the meaning that it has. Everyone that's actually watching this podcast right now is perceiving this a little bit differently. Some people might not like this podcast. Some people might be tempted to turn it off right now. And I understand if you might want to do that when I say something that sounds ridiculous, that all events are neutral. Well, how can you say that? People are being harmed. People are dying. We're going to war. There's environmental problems. We can go down the list. We got all that. We see all that. We know all that. Just turn on the news. It's all there. And we're all exposed to that, right? But my point is, we are giving meaning to all the events. So I'll give you a quick example. Here's one you might have heard, Jason. 5 people sitting at the dinner table having dinner. And they're all having a good time and they're talking. And the waitress comes over and is going to pour water for everybody and is holding a big jug of water, right? A pitcher of water. And is reaching around to refresh everyone's water, their glasses. And suddenly, unexpectedly, he loses his hold and he slips and the pitcher of water crashes onto the table. Now that's an event, right? That's an event. It's one event. And here's 5 people sitting at the table and other onlookers, of course, around. But let's just talk about these 5 people. The water splashes and everybody gets it. One person is like, oh, I'm so sorry for the waiter. I know that had to be embarrassing. That's terrible for them. Accidents happen. I feel really bad for the waiter. I'm going to be sure and give them an extra tip. Another person is thinking, oh my goodness, how clumsy. I hope that this person can improve. I'm not going to leave much of a tip in that. I mean, this is really not a good thing. I'm not going to do that. And another person is not even thinking about it. They've already moved on because they're going through a divorce. And the last thing that they're concerned about is what's happening at this table right now. Another person is sitting there and they're thinking about what's going to be happening tomorrow because they're buying a new home and they're going to be closing on that home. And this is just nothing to them. This is a distraction. But there is one person, this last person, who is absolutely livid. They are about to go ballistic on this poor waiter. How dare you? Why would you pour that water on me? You've ruined our, and just berates this poor server and treats them like they're not even human. The event is neutral. Everyone gave this event a different meaning. And each person is responsible for the meaning that they gave that event. One person was forgiving, another person was condemning. Other people were ignoring it. And some people weren't thinking about it at all. All events are neutral. So I'm hoping that kind of helps put that in perspective. So if we are reacting to events like our friend who went ballistic, or we're responding to events like our friend who said, I'm going to give this person an extra tip, because that had to be the most embarrassing thing. They felt compassion. They could see themselves as that person. And they were operating from love. They saw this event as a cry for love, right? And so they were responding from love. Others weren't reacting much at all, but one person in our story was reacting quite aggressively. So the point I'm making is simply we can stop in the midst of any event, post-event or during the event, whatever the case may be, and just simply, instead of reacting out of fear, our fearful thinking mind, which is always judgmental, we can respond with our loving mind, which is our higher self, the Holy Spirit, nothing more than our right mind. It is our soul, if you will. And we can connect with that self, which is never judgmental and always discerning, and just say, what would be the appropriate way for me to be loving in a response to this particular event? So that right there is how the victim becomes the victim, the victor becomes the victor, and judgment and blame come into the picture, and forgiveness also can be utilized to provide a completely different outcome for any event. In the case of forgiveness, I would like to point out that was a response where the person took a moment to look at the situation and to have compassion for that brother and recognize that we are one with each other, that no one is going through anything that we haven't all gone through at one point or another, this life or one prior. The point is, compassion and love comes from the heart, comes from the soul, comes from the Christ consciousness. So the victor, if you will, the perpetrator in this story was the poor waiter. And I haven't really mentioned that person's perspective, but I can only imagine if that were me that were doing that, I would be really embarrassed. I would be afraid that I could even lose my job for being careless. I mean, all kinds of thoughts are going to come into the mind about that, right? We also have to be compassionate for ourselves, right? We have to be willing to forgive ourselves, and we have to be willing to love ourselves. And the best way to do that in all cases is to take that pause and turn within and ask for guidance from our higher self. How can I be loving of myself in this moment? And it always boils down to just being connected and being present. So this victim consciousness is pervasive throughout the world. If we believe that we're bodies, then it looks like the body is what's being attacked, or the body is becoming sick, or the body is becoming the hero, and the ego operates between suspicious and vicious. And there was another email that I sent out this week that kind of touched on those points as well. All of that to say, Jason, is if we begin to accept this true thought, now this is something that came through Jesus as he was teaching about A Course in Miracles back in 2022, somewhere around there, 2002, 2002, 2003, somewhere in there. He was doing a gathering with people and teaching about A Course in Miracles. And he was sharing this through Paul Tuttle. Anyway, the point is, he was talking about victimization. And the term victim is in 25 different discussions in A Course in Miracles, by the way, and they're all brilliant. Jesus is always brilliant. But they're all worth picking up and listening and just reading through those. But the point is that he simply summarized his presentation on victim consciousness and being a victim as saying God did not create victims. So if God didn't create victims, really what's going on, Jason, is we are making it all up. We're imagining ourselves to be victims. And if we really begin to realize that everything that's happening is a reflection, like a ripple, we drop a stone in a clear pond or a pool and it goes to the edge, it creates a ripple, goes to the edge and comes right back, doesn't it? That reflection back, the world is reflective. And so all of our thoughts are things.
Absolutely.
You want to say something, Jason? Jump in.
No, I was just saying that, the dropping the pebble into the pond, and and that's when that pebble drops in. Let's say there's several people that are dropping pebbles into the same pond. As we gather in community in the world and we're interacting with other people, pebbles are dropping and they're interacting and they're creating little waves. But how we perceive that and how we react to that, we can only control our pebble, and we can only observe through us. There's so many great teachers out there that talk about this also, where they talk about creating your neural pathways to think more positively, and as you think more positively, it continues to be easier to manifest and have this non-victim consciousness. And it's just amazing to me. After the hardest part is at the beginning, right? The hardest part is creating a new neural pathway. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about that a lot, is creating a new neural pathway, breaking the habit of being yourself, listening to the Course in Miracles or the Way of Mastery and absorbing it the first time and being able to digest it and really be able to then step forth without fear and test it.
I'm going to jump in and just I just want to add to this. Okay, so
please, yeah.
So all of that is good information. Everything you said and everything Joe Dispenza is sharing is good information. And when I was in the first grade, because we didn't have kindergarten when I was going to school, my first grade teacher set really great boundaries, and I learned some things in the first grade about being socially, interacting with other children in the room, and I learned some really great things in the first grade. I mean, I really did. But later in my life, as I became a young man, I didn't need some of those training wheels anymore, right? Once you learn how to ride the bicycle, you can take the training wheels off. But we need training wheels, right? We do. So to practice holding thoughts or being more thoughtful and to improve our thinking process is a wonderful training wheel. But the problem, and this helps with the problem, because at least I'm looking at my thinking. But the problem is, here's some good news and bad news, Jason. God did not create you to be a thinker. And the immediate response is, well, I need to think. I got to think about that. Right?
Right.
Don't think.
Right.
That's ridiculous, Brother T. I can't not think. Right. No, your egoic mind can't not think. But it's not you. That's the illusion. That's the grand illusion. And if you don't understand that, or until you do get to the point where you do understand it, you end up reacting to the waves that are coming back, that are reflecting back to you from your own stinking thinking. And I love the point you made about lots of people are dropping pebbles, because it can become a tsunami, right? And I can be angry at the tsunami and add more energy to it and make it right. bigger. Or I can forgive it and bless it and try to seek shelter and comfort those near me as much as possible, and not add to the energy of that destructive thought system called fear. If I quit thinking, or quit giving my awareness to my thinking mind, absolutely, I cannot ever be a victim again. Only the thinking mind can think itself to be a victim. Only the thinking mind can react angrily or hatefully or evilly or with no compassion. It can improve its reaction. It can improve how it's being and responding, and it can get better at being a nice person. But after a few more thousand lifetimes, just being a nice person, you might start to realize that that's not going to get you off the planet. If you want to graduate past this 3D experience, you have to ignore the thinking mind. And that's radical, because we've been told to work on the thinking mind. And that's the thinking mind keeping itself at the very front of your awareness, because you are the one with the awareness, not the thinking mind. You are the one that decides what you give your awareness to, not the thinking mind. And if you're giving your awareness to the thoughts of love, to the thoughts of God, then what are you thinking? You're not thinking. You and God are one. The thoughts of God are your thoughts. When you say, Father, thy will be mine, you're saying, Father, thy thoughts be mine. It's just a different way of looking at it, Jason.
Yeah, isn't it a beautiful way of looking at it? And I encourage people that are having difficult times in their life right now, if they're seekers and they're coming and they're like looking for something outside of them to make their life better, I think this is the perfect opportunity for them to take that first step and realize there's nothing outside of you that makes your life better. It all starts inside. In fact, it is inside. And it's more than just inside you. It's your capital S self. It's spirit coming through you, and you just kind of staying out of its way. You know what I mean? Kind of like allowance. There's keys to the kingdom that we'll get into later on, but it's so amazing when you just allow and you step back and get out of your own way, how amazing life can be. And you put me on this path, and this is, you know, things, even big thing, stage 4 cancer. I have stage 4 cancer right now. I've had stage 4 cancer for 8 years. So, and I am super healthy. How many people with stage 4 cancer say they're super healthy? I do. I'm not a victim, and I try and be as present. Some days are better than others, but damn, this is a great experience. This experience of spirit in the human body, in your perception and how you want to deal with it. That is not victim consciousness. Go ahead, Tony. Thank you so much for this.
Well said, Jason. I totally agree with you, man. You know, we can really get down deeper and deeper into these conversations, and we may have to extend our podcast to get a little deeper with it. But I think just understanding a couple of things from our talk this morning. Number one, God did not create victims, and God did not create you to be a thinker. Now, those are two big thoughts. One of my friends used to come to my class every week, and he said, I had a big thought, and he'd come out, and we didn't, sometimes the whole class would be about, his big thought. He had perspectives and perceptions about, some of these teachings, because they are very challenging to accept, especially initially. And Jason and I have both been at this for a little while, so we've kind of graduated a little bit from some of the resistance of our egoic mind. The egoic mind doesn't want us to accept these kinds of things. But yeah, I just want to just point out that those two things are foundational. If we can begin to accept that God didn't create us to be a thinker, so where's all this thinking coming from, and how can I be my natural self? What is my natural self? To be as Christ, right? To join with your soul, or your higher self, the truth, the Holy Spirit, your right mind, and that's all within the heart. So to turn within instead of to turn without, if you will. And so that's very, very important. And the other thing is that God didn't create victims. What God created is perfect. And victims aren't victimized if they're perfect. And I did point out that we're not a body. Now, there's a lot of confusion about some early teachings of A Course in Miracles were more literal than they didn't quite understand exactly the message that Jesus was trying to bring through. We've got much better insight now about that. But there were teachers who early in the game were teaching that, none of this is all a dream, so none of it's real, none of it's important, none of it matters. The planet doesn't matter, the body doesn't matter, the neighbor doesn't matter, that it's just you and you're making all this up. And as you pointed out, Jason, there's a lot of thinking going on. There's a lot of reactions and responses going on. And we are part of that overall mass consciousness, right, if you will, group consciousness. So it is important to recognize that this is a reality in the house of God, right? It is real. Form is a creation. It's not absolutely a creation in the sense of what God creates because it's eternal, but it is a creation in mind. Just like when we go to sleep at night, we have form. There's form there, and it's an image. It's like a movie. It is a movie playing in the mind. So this is a construct of mind, but it's so powerful. The mind that we're all a part of is so powerful that experiencing reality in form is quite exhilarating. And that's why we do this. This is why this is the purpose that Spirit set out. There's no accidents. All of this is happening because it was an intention established by God to create more of God. We can go in another direction on that too. But I don't want to take up too much time today. I know everybody's got a busy day, and it's a Sunday, and our audience is getting ready to go spend some time with family and friends and community today. But I just want to say thank you, Jason. It was a really good question, a really great Absolutely. Topic. We'll get a chance, I think, to cover some more. If you have any other insights or anything you want to share, feel free to speak up. And I'm just going to step back and just say thank you to our audience at this point. If there's nothing else that you have asked of me, Jason, I'm just going to step back and see where we're going. But I think we've covered quite a bit of material, and I think we might get some comments about this podcast today. We've talked about some pretty wild and crazy things.
I hope we do get some comments, Brother T. I'm excited. I'm excited about the comments, and I'm excited about the comments that question what we're talking about, that want to take that second step. Thank you, Brother T, for the part of this message. And I think we can deep dive into this next week too, if that's what especially if there's some questions that come from our viewers. This is such a life-changing concept, and you called it a foundation belief. When you grasp these, it's life-changing. And thank you, Brother T, for guiding us through our education and our path today. And I can't thank you enough for being here. Can't thank you enough for your teachings, and I can't thank you enough for the way you've changed my life to help create unlimitedness. There really is only the limits that we place in front of ourselves.
Well, thank you, Jason. And all I have to say to that is all glory to God. You know, God is coming through each of us. And these principles, these teachings, this true thought journey that we're taking together is all glory to God. You know, God is. So I'm just going to, with that, just say, let's take a moment, take a good deep breath to turn within. And so thank you. Thank you, Mother, Father, God. Thank you, source of all that is. Thank you for the blessings of the wisdom that's been communicated to us through our brother, our teacher, Jesus. He's just so amazing. And we say thank you to Jesus as well this morning for finally being able to get the truth that he taught 2,000 years ago. It's finally starting to come through now. And there are lots of questions yet to be answered and lots of things to learn. But we are in a new time, and we are so very, very grateful to be in this time. This is why we came, to be a part of the transformation of the world of fear into a world of love. So joy and peace to everyone out there. God bless you. We'll talk to you soon again here at the Second Coming Podcast. Have a great week. Bye-bye.